kind of jokingly even saying like the 30K is too long for me. I'm not good enough for that.
Where does Western States and UTMB, they're obviously different races, they're the pinnacle of racing, but where do they sit in each of your minds and hearts?
I think when Jim came here to Western the first years, you really made an impact on like how we could approach these fast, long races.
Aging is real, right? But you're still racing, you still want to race. I can still see the competitiveness in each of you. Hey everybody, Brian Metzler, longtime running journalist here. Really excited and honored to host this exclusive interview with two of the legends of the sport for UltraSignup, Kilian Jornet and Jim Walmsley. Welcome, guys.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Obviously, we know about these guys. Kilian's won 4 UTMBs, won Western States in 2011, some lot of FKTs. Jim, you've won Western States 4 times, UTMB in 2023. You guys are rarely in the same place together, though. What's it like just sitting here?
Like it's nice. Like I think the days before a race is always boring because normally in daily life you have a lot of things to do, and now it's kind of just relax on that, and it's nice to be here and like nice to see him. Like it's been we met in Chianti like a few months ago, but it was a long time before that. I don't think because it wasn't at UTMB or sharing all that. The year before and another year before, so yeah.
And usually it's crossing paths or something.
Yeah.
I think with things, it would be nice sometime to try spending some more time together.
You guys both come from distinctly different backgrounds to become the pillars of the sport. Kilian, you obviously grew up in the mountain. Your parents were involved in mountain guiding and ski patrolling, and that obviously framed your appreciation for the natural world, and I think ultimately led to skimo and trail running, mountain running, and ultimately ultra and a lot of other things. I just talk about that and kind of how that framed you to this point of being an ultra.
Yeah, no, I think at least for me it's always been like in the mountains like the goal, and then like skiing first and then running. It's been like kind of the excuse to be in the mountain, and then I think it's more about that, and then I have kind of a competitor mindset, so then it's easy to get more deep into like the competition. But it's been always kind of a excuse to be out in the mountains and just doing different activities. I think it's nice, like even if like probably trail running is more the focus, just to be able to do different activities. It's pretty cool. I think it gives you like a toolbox that it's bigger to move in the mountains. And it was actually cool to see you like going to do skimo and like the progression was great. What do you thought about the skimo, like a sport and activity and pros and cons and like?
Well, I guess like I really like it. I really like going uphill on the skis, but ultimately I think not doing it from a young age, I'll never have like the touch to ever consider doing it at a high level for me, because the skiing is just awkward enough and sliding on snow. I didn't grow up with snow, so skiing is quite hard to pick up as an adult, where I think I've progressed, but I'll never have the ability that you have on skis.
And let's talk about that. You came from a more traditional running background. You were a fast high school runner. You ran for Air Force Academy. I think Jenny Simpson first told me about you sometime, years back when she was training there. And yet you were still kind of in that short distance road running mentality. I think you were in Montana. You just told a funny story the other day about your entry to trail running. Maybe talk about that. I mean, obviously you thought like, oh, well, I'll do the short race, whatever. But I guess, and now you're an ultra. Talk about how that happened.
So I started discovering trail as a sport in Montana because most of the races that they have are trail based, as opposed to, I think they have the Missoula marathon that I did the half marathon once or twice. So not a lot of road things on the schedule. And then I was working a job that I wasn't really taking running as a career, or just a little side hobby after running collegiately. So I decided to do Don't Fence Me In race, and there were 2 distance options, and there were some like famous, the Mikes of Montana, and I assumed that they were going to do the short fast 12K, and then so I signed up for the 12K because I wanted to race them, and I'm like kind of jokingly even saying like the 30K is too long for me, I'm not good enough for that. and then like just assuming the fast people do the short race because that's more or less how it is on the track. But yeah, I ran that race by myself, and then everyone had more fun in the 30K competing against each other, and I didn't really get to do that. So I waited a whole nother year to sign up for the 30K, and then those were my first 2 trail races.
And then go figure, you become this mountain person like Kilian. Obviously, you lived in France 2 years ago and did a lot of skiing, did a lot of uphill stuff there. I guess talk about that evolution when you moved to France.
Yeah,
that was a good turning point.
Well, Resh is a hard place to learn, and there's more people like Kilian than people like me, I would say. I'm more
It's a
of an
hardcore
oddball.
ballet.
Yeah, they take things very serious. People come knock on your door and say, hey, we have an uphill race this afternoon. You need to come. And I'm like, I had the day off. But sure enough, you're lining up and racing, and they love to race, and there's a good spirit there. So, but I always need to kind of put beginner bumpers in the mountains for me because like whether it's mountaineering, skiing, it's not things I grew up doing and have experience in, and I need to take it in context compared to the Valley of Arash and the athletes there. They grew up doing all of it, much more similar to Kilian, and you've spent a lot of time there with pyramids and stuff. But it's been a really fun experience, and kind of this challenge, especially later in life, has been really attractive to me, and I keep going back to Arash and trying to spend more and more time there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Obviously, you 2 years ago moved to France and really immersed in the mountain culture, which included, obviously learning to ski and hang out with Francois and Simone, and these guys were really immersed in that. And that probably taught you maybe another dimension of being a mountain athlete.
Yeah, I think Arash takes everything very seriously. It's a very competitive and mountainous environment, so it's been really new and fun and challenging, but I always have to keep kind of like when you do bowling, you have beginner bumpers to make sure you can hit the pins. Like I have to keep it like that in Arash, and I have to keep those boundaries for myself because everyone else assumes because I can keep up uphill that I can follow them downhill. And sometimes we go up a mountain and we see the top there. I'm like, oh, I don't know about going down that one. And we have to pick a different route because, yeah, my experience just isn't the same. But it's been a really fun new challenge for me that has been very interesting.
15 years ago, I think you were still at Air Force. Kilian had already won a couple of UTMBs. You came here to run Western States for the first time, which we now know was made into a movie, Unbreakable. We talked about this yesterday. I think going back to look at Unbreakable, it would maybe seem like an historic time has passed, right?
Yeah, and I think it's great that it's like kind of this, when you do a race like so far away on the time, like it's kind of this point of reference that you have. And if you're doing like a race like all the time, it's hard to see how the sport has evolved. Like I think maybe like for you, it seems that Western has evolved a lot on that time, and for me, it's like sure, it seems that it's not evolved because I have been going there kind of every year. But now here, like with this gap in between, it feels like yeah, it changed so much, like the sport and the and how we approach ultras, like and the knowledge that we have. I think it's much different, like than we had before on nutrition, on hydration, on training, on everything. So that's so cool, like to see how like keeping the same spirit. I think like people is still like the same, like not for going out and that, but that it's been changing and how like I think when Jim came here to Western the first years, you really made an impact on like how we could approach these fast long races, and I think everybody else then we started to say, okay, yeah, we can do races like that, and start to think more about how we can like keep the tactics or the pace on that, and seeing I think it's great to see like how people is doing different approaches that are influencing other athletes to run better. So that's cool, like when you're racing like far away on the time.
And when you look at that video, I mean, obviously you were here. You raced Anton and Jeff Rose, and that was a historic thing. You came back next year and you won, obviously, with maybe some adaptations that you learned. And I think you said the first year you came here, it was just running aid station to aid station. And
no, sure, probably it's not the smartest here. Like I think it, and especially like coming from Europe to here, it was like in Europe, like first time I ran UTMB, for example, it was like, I don't need any aid station, it's enough rivers to drink. So when I came here, it was like the same. Oh, it looks like a lot of rivers in the map, and it's plenty of aid stations, so you don't need to bring any water or thing because it's that. So it was like very big mistakes, but we learned from that. And I think it was kind of similar when you went to UTMB the first time. Now you were racing like crazy fast here, then it's just different there, like with the elevation. What did surprise you more, like going there? Like
I was a mess with my pack, my poles, where to put things, what to use at which time, and
Yeah, it was 2017. You got nice in UTMB.
yeah, 2017. It was you, me, Francois, most of the night together. But yeah, I didn't know when to put. It was my first time ever running through the night. First time running with a headlight in a race, like not to mention pack, poles, all sorts of things. So looking back on that, it's really funny. Probably similar to your Western States experience. Like now looking back of knowing what you didn't know at the time is pretty. There's some humor in it.
Yeah, and that was a time where you still hadn't established yourself as the guy at Western States, right? You went there and we're trying to figure out Europe. I guess, they're two distinctly different races. Maybe talk about Western. You obviously come back, you've won 4 times. You've learned this course intimately. I guess kind of what have you learned, and kind of how has your running changed here specifically?
Yeah, for me, yeah, it was funny because we were talking with a couple other like past champions, but I had to go through the paces of making mistakes. Kind of like you're a faster learner than me. It only took you one year of mistakes, where me it took 2 years of mistakes, and then kind of giving up a bit on. It was like not forcing your agenda on the course, that it's a hot, harsh enough environment that it's very difficult, and you need to take advantage of when you feel good and what the course gives you, not just pushing your agenda on the course and trying to overpower it. I think it's a good enough, proper, classic ultra that holds its own and makes you adapt to the course and the day's conditions.
Kilian, I think when I first met you, and was at UTMB one year, and you talked about this course being flat, and I know you still come, but obviously compared to other things, hard rock or UTMB, but obviously there's a lot.
It's uphill, yeah. But I think it's mostly like in overall it's like it's 5,000 meters of elevation, so like it's kind of flat in the total if you take, but it's really different. I think the section, like it's the canyons that there is like a lot of elevation, but the last like from Forest Hill to the finish, it's flat, it's fast, and if you take away the first uphill too, like after it's kind of, so I would say it's the 3 sections of the race are very different here, while maybe probably other races like Hard Rock, UTMB, Diagonal, all those are more like all the time like up and down, up and down, up and down. While here, it's very, the sections are very different. And it's like we run all the time, like it's not hiking in the course, and it's, I would say, still like a fast race, yeah.
Where does Western States and UTMB, they're obviously different races, they're the pinnacle of racing, but where do they sit in each of your minds and hearts relative to wanting to race there and race well, and you've both done it there, but people come here and they think, oh, Western States is it, or UTMB is it? I mean, they're two different things, right? But talk about that a bit.
Yeah, no, I think they are the 2 most competitive ultras, and I think that's it's not many competitive ultras, or it's not many ultras in general, and as athletes we cannot race like 10 ultras a year, like that would be too hard to the bodies, and so it's not that elite athletes can go to many races, and then it's in between them it's not many that they have high density, like I would say like Hard Rock has 1 to 5 athletes that are elite, or Diagonal some years too, but that have a big density of like maybe 15-20 guys and women that can be fighting for the podium. I would say it's only in Western or UTMB. I don't know about you.
Western States, coming as an American, like it's kind of the pinnacle maybe of like the media focus for ultra running for our side of this sport. So there's a lot more pressure, I think, with being an American and coming here. because like just within the country, I think sponsors put more like, well, why aren't you like building towards Western states and stuff? And then like when I started, like there was maybe less of a current landscape of things. I think there's becoming more choices and distances and events that things will continue to evolve. But yeah, it feels like Western States is the biggest race that is comparable to UTMB, but still UTMB is UTMB. I think it's quite bigger than Western States. But here, like both the races have pathways for elites to get in and reliably get in with the golden tickets for Western States, and then kind of like a scoring system for UTMB now. I think that's probably what really separates it, because you don't have to rely on a lottery or limited numbers, and essentially if people are motivated to get to the race, there's a clear path to find your way to the start line if you are going to have a chance at winning Western States.
We mentioned 15 years ago in the sports evolution, obviously there's a lot more brands, a lot more money in it. You guys are obviously professional runners, normal, Hilker have done great things to the sport. Is there a concern, though, that maybe we're growing too much or too fast? There's been a lot of conversation this week about that. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, there's more money, more commercialization?
It's growing, and I think, it's more money, more teams, more people going out. I think it has a positive thing on that it's more people enjoying the outdoors and also like connecting to nature. I think like you get to respect that and to kind of want to preserve with the access that we have when we go to run on trails. And when it comes to the sport, like I think the evolution is never linear. Right? It's like going to pathways and it finds its way at the end. And I think it's great to see that the sport is evolving, but it's still like pretty close to its original values when it comes to, like, we are not racing 100 miles for the sake of doing 100 miles, like on a mountain loop that it's 10 miles and doing 10 loops. Like I don't think that exists, and I hope that will not exist. Like a race like Western has its logic, and a race like UTMB has its logic, and short races, like, it's not about the distance, it's about like what's the logical thing that you can do in every place, and that's something that I think it's core to the values of the sport on that. And yeah, I think it's still like place for different races. Like we're talking about UTMB, that it's kind of a private organization that it's making a lot of runners go to places, and it's great because many people like find that experience that it would be impossible to live in a race like Western or like Hard Rock, that it's keep very like a smaller community, and like you have saying that it's place for having, it's not like a unique model that it's fitting everybody like we can see in other sports, but you can find probably what it's closer to what you like in different kind of events.
Yeah, well, I think like when you talk about UTMB and them pioneering kind of maybe the pointy end of the biggest, most people, they're definitely pushing through, but the sport, I think, is diverse and broad enough to always have the small grassroots events, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere because there's so many places, especially in the US, that like those small races can't grow any bigger than what they are, so they'll really hold on to that special feel, and there's definitely like opportunities for what you're looking for through races, and a lot of times the races are just kind of the end result anyways. The day-to-day sport and training for it is maybe kind of the most purity for it. So whether it's a performance competition race or whether it's a small grassroots thing, the process to get ready for it is pretty similar. But all of it, I think, has been pretty cool for athletes because it's allowed a lot more opportunity for professionalization. And like you talk about that, and Kilian being pretty much a super pioneer in being a professional in this space and pushing that forward for like me and other athletes to come up to be able to do more of it and have that support. I think as far as the professionalization of the sport, I think it's been really, really cool to see.
you guys are all at the prime of your careers racing. You're also in your late 30s, right? And so there's that thing. Okay, aging is real, right? But you're still racing. You still want to race. I can still see the competitiveness in each of you. But is trail running become a thing where you see it more than just racing? I mean, it's probably a balance in your lives, right? I mean, it must mean more than just racing. It's not like you're going to the track and racing people. It's got to be a dual part thing. I guess I ask that because at some point down the road, 20, 30 years from now, you're still going to love running, and yet maybe it won't be racing as much.
Yeah, well, I think it's inspiring to see like guys like Ludo that he's like 50 years old and he's like putting there like trying to
we have people to point out that are older that are still doing great things, so that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's kind of life goals. Like when you see this guy, like he's like, you start to feel like it's painful a bit there, and like you're training and you don't recover as well as before, but then you see those guys, it's like, come on, like you can complain, like I think it's just like if you keep the motivation, if you still have goals, and then like if you are smart enough like to not burn yourself, like I think especially mentally, because physically I think it can take a bit more time or less time to recover, but if you still have goals and the motivation to do things, I think it's I really don't understand why when people say I will retire, or like retirement, what it means. Like that's that. No,
yeah. I think at any age you can always try your best. So I think you'll continue to see that people appreciate as essentially we stop winning at some point because we're not the fast young kids anymore. People will still appreciate like us coming out, being a part of the running and still trying. And I think the purity of sport in general is just giving your best, whatever that is.
Speaking of young kids, it seems like the sport has gotten younger. Obviously, there's a lot of young 20-somethings, a lot of fast mountain running. We used to do a lot more mountain running, obviously, like, fast up and down stuff. I guess what's your impression from that with the sport seeing a lot of young 20-something?
Yeah, no, I think it's more young. I would say it's more kids that they start like trail running as the first sport. That's something that before it didn't happen, that they were coming either from track and field or from ski mountaineering or from cycling. And today it's many kids that they start trail running as their first sport. But then like you see races and I wouldn't say that it's the young ones that they are winning all the races, because it was the same before. Like we were winning races when we were younger, and it was all older ones that they were also winning races. And so I would say the difference is that it's more density, so that means that it's more young athletes like in the top positions, but it's also more older athletes in the top positions. I would say the difference is mostly that it's at least in Europe it's a lot of like trail running schools and things like that kids start like to practice trail running from like 10, 11 years old. And before it wasn't the case, but I don't know, here in US it's also like
I think the sport is reaching an awareness within the NCAA system a bit more. There's more and more like overlap of collegiate runners that have teammates that all of a sudden they see one of their teammates go into a trail and start having success with this, and that there's opportunity to switch to that, where when I was in university, like I didn't know that it was possible to just do this running and that it was professionalized in any way. And I think that's where the growth is allowed, like an opportunity to continue running, and not to mention like, well, if you go run and train for trails, like you get to go to beautiful places and spend time in the outdoors. And essentially many runners find like, well, this is what I like doing. Like, why do I want to keep only focusing on a very, very specific part of running when you can still do the majority of it outdoors? And some of the athletes now too are doing a bit of track and trail running, and I think that's when you see the short trail races, which you kind of the king of that too. I always recommend track runners to go check out Sierra Zinao because like with leg speed, but I mean in 2019 I had never seen a climb like that. It blew my mind.
It's very flat, but first you need to climb.
It's in feet it's 6,500 feet, so close to 2,000 meters, just 20%, and like really, really amazing good footing. So the gaps and stuff on it are just the numbers are insane. And Kilian set those numbers and won it 9-10 times. So Yeah, I think a lot of young people should start with the short, fast trail running, and there'll be more and more overlap there. But I think there's also just an appreciation for pushing distance and time in some of these classic routes of Western States, UTMB, and it's still part of the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah, I think we're seeing like definitely a lot of younger people coming in directly from, at least in the college system, directly to trail, where it used to be go to the trials and marathon or something like that. I don't think you get enough credit for running 2:15 on trials here 4 years ago. I think it's still underrated, right? And also, I think you ran a sub 30-minute 10,000 in a track a couple of years ago, and I think those are outliers, but I think that shows what quality runners we have in trail, right? I think I asked you years ago, like, oh, what did you run the London Marathon in? And you were like, I don't really know, I don't really care. But I think it shows that there's a high performance level, starting with you guys, but all the way back to the younger guys, younger kids, younger women, that the sport has really evolved that way from performance.
Yeah, well, you have done much more like track and like and marathon and that, but I think it's many people think that I think it's more like the old vision of these are just like power hikers in the mountain, but like as you mentioned, short races like at Serginal last year, it's guys that they can run like a under 1 hour half marathon and that's quick, like that's insane to think. But it comes also with the specificity. It's not because you are a strong like track or road that you will be strong like in mountains. Like I would say, like it needs a part of a specificity, and it's some guys that they are very strong in the mountains. Like I don't know, we can think of guys that are very technical, like Nadir Maguet or Manu Merillas, but they will never run anything well in flat probably. But they crush it in the mountains, and then it's also the opposite guys that they can run like very well on like Jonathan Wyatt, like he could run like everything very well. So it's not, I think sometimes we try to simplify performance that this guy has a good cyclist with good VO2 max, he can run a marathon on that, or he can run in the mountain like that. And like the base is the same, but then it's a lot of specific work to put behind. So the transition sometimes isn't that easy.
Shout out to your wives, who are both good runners. Just disqualified from the U.S. mountain running team, so maybe because she's a better runner in the house right now.
Yeah.
Emily, obviously, the great mountain runner, and just gave birth to your third child. Congrats on that. I guess talk about that in terms of inspiration. Obviously, from your partner, obviously they're as invested in running as you are in different ways. We're talking to you two on the couch now, but talk about that as an inspiration.
For me, it puts us both more in sync and with goals and like-mindedness of where we want to be, what we want to do, priorities of making sure we get our running in every day. We're not balancing three little ones yet at this point, but it's nice to have a partner that is really like-minded with similar goals, and you understand the time commitment and priority that we put on the sport.
Yeah, no, I would say the same, and it's good like that that you understand each other when it comes to like the ups and downs of the sport, because when everything goes well it's very easy, but training is never flat. It's days that you feel shit and days that you periods that you are on high, and I think it's if your partner also like these feelings and this understanding is much easier to navigate through the year, and to understand like why sometimes like maybe before a race or a project like you can be a bit more like isolating yourself, like concentrated, and it's like it's not that he or she is getting rude, it's just that it's concentration that's part of the process. And some other times to understand like what the other is feeling, it's I would say it's important at some point, and it's difficult if the other is not practicing the sport. If you're competitive, like you want to win, like, so that's the first thing. The rest then like it's like, okay, what does it take to win the race, no? And then like if you need to put like full focus and just go for it, like you do. If you don't need to do that, especially in these long ones, it's like, okay, I can enjoy it here. Maybe especially these first years, I think it was I was racing a lot of races, so then it was more, okay, I have UTMB, but then in 2 weeks I have another race. So if I can like push like 70% instead of 100%, I can recover faster for the next race. So I think it's different. I think I would say that's probably how the sport has changed the most. That before athletes were doing many more races. Like it was usual to, when you were doing ultras, to be able to do like 6-7 ultras a year. And if you are combining like to do like 30, 40, 50 races a year, and then it meant that the strategies were very different on that. Like try to win the races, get good positions, but recover in between. While today I would say that we are racing much less, but then it means that we are giving 100% in every race. So like the recoveries are longer, and the building periods are longer. I don't know how do you feel like on that, like on like the times to recover.
When I think about that in general, I think just the most amazing thing is your personal evolution to evolve with the sport, and not just with the sport, but on the front edge of the sport from 17 years ago to now, and you're still on the front edge of performance. Like essentially, it's what separates you from anyone else that's done it before. So a lot has changed, the approach has changed, but yeah, it's just crazy that you haven't missed a beat at all. Unfortunate for me, because I come in late and he's got to start fading. No way.
But I think like for example, like I think you had a big impact on that, on like when you started to approach Western ever the first year when you miss the turn, and that like it changed like the approach, especially in ultras, that all of us were doing many ultras, and then when you started racing like that, it was like, okay, we can't do that many ultras if we want to stay competitive.
I think mentally I started cutting out like the warm-up chit-chat that everybody would have of like, we're just getting into the race, we're not going too hard yet, and I was a bit of an outsider, so I'm like, well, I don't have anyone to talk with, so I'm just going to start running. And then, it's made 100 miles, a 100-mile race now.
Well, and to that point, maybe we'll lead to a closer conclusion here, but in 2022, you guys were both at UTMB. I think you did what I maybe would say the Zach Miller approach, and you went off the front at some point, right? You had a big lead, and I think everyone was watching the live stream or in Chamonix thinking, Jim Stitt, he's going to go get it this year. And you had a lead, and I think eventually you caught him in your Champagne maybe that year, right?
A bit, like we ran together up to Bonatti Hut, and then you were going away.
I think you had a low patch through there.
Yeah, then like I had a low patch in Grand Colferre, and then you had like after did you start to feel bad just before Champagne? I think
as I went over Grand Colferre, I was having trouble eating anything, and then so 3+ hours later it all caught up. But I know if like it's impossible to take time from Kilian, so if you can get 1 to 2 minutes, you have to take 1 to 2 minutes, because I really think about I fell apart in 2017 as well, but I always think about I was with Francois, and we got like 8 minutes on you, and like that was it. And talking with Francois, he's like, now Kilian's just gonna come back, and Jim and I went too hard to get away from Kilian, and it was a mistake. Jim's dying and I'm dying too. But the thing that I found just so amazing was you didn't lose another minute after that. So you had your bad patch, but I mean, if Francois faltered in any way, you would have gone right past him. And it takes a lot of strength and experience to still have confidence to not keep falling apart, where I've had plenty of times in my career when I start falling apart, I fall really, really apart. So I say you have a very good zombie mode.
Yeah, I think, but I think ultras is like, in general, like it's rarely that you don't have a bad moment. And then it's like, I think it's mental, it's like you starting to eat yourself, like to say, okay, like now I'm bad, they are pulling out, and like especially after so many hours, like you're sharp on the head, and it's like, how can I like keep pushing, believing that it will become better. I think that's the hardest, like to keep trusting that it will get better at some point. But even if it don't, just to have that,
So in that year, Julian came back. He won, obviously, ever the craftsman, the Jedi of ultra running, right? And you finished fourth, which is still your best finish. I remember talking to you afterwards, kind of behind the awards, and you're super bummed out, right? And yet a year later, you come back and win it. You become the first American man to win it. That was a big thing, and yet more so just for you to triumph in that. I guess when you knew he triumphed, I mean, how much did that make you feel good, knowing what he'd been through? And
no, I think like it's inspiring. Like as I mentioned, like when he went to Western first time, and like these 2 years were like you were going to win. Like it was like super obvious, and then like, it was like the mistake on the turn and things like that. It's like, come on, and then like UTMB, like I think your journey there, it's been like super inspiring. Also on that, like to learn how to learn the way of racing there. Yeah, you said the first year like it was all the mistakes with, or like the backpack, and knowing that, and then like moving to France, like to train with Francois and to be there, like that's very cool. Like it really shows like what it takes to win racing like that. Even if like I think like pure raw talent, like you are really up there. Like it's not many athletes that have this raw talent. But then like the work that you put it on that, it's amazing. And yeah, it's great. Like I remember like when I first ran UTMB 2010, it was like this story like of, it was Scott that was going there, and he was like, yeah, he's going to be the first American to win UTMB, and like it was kind of like, yeah, everybody believed that for those years, and Scott is an amazing athlete and has a lot of talent, but I think that he didn't understand like that. Yeah, he needed to train differently to be able to win the race, and I think that you show that that process it's there, and yeah, I was really happy when seeing that you were the first American, and it was kind of great because it was like you and Zach, like really.
If it wasn't me, it was
hard,
going to be Zach. So
that was
there
also the
someone
battle in the
and
race.
Zach's had a completely different approach to it because he stayed more Colorado based and stuff. But I mean, he's been going back and back since 2015 with CCC and UTMB. So he's had a lot of learning as well. It's not so simple to beat the Europeans in Europe. Like it's pretty difficult. But yeah, I kind of just jokingly say like, unfortunately, I'm a slow learner, and it took me 5 tries. But yeah.
Now you got it, yeah. It's like here, like it took you 2 tries, but then it was like 4 in a row, and because you went to
still not the
UTMB,
same because last year I forced UTMB, and I'm back to not finishing again. So it's a tricky puzzle still.
But then I think last year also was hard, like with West. I think Western it takes much longer time to recover because it's much more random. I don't know like what you think, but I think it's.
I like the two as 2 pinnacles of the sport. I'd say UTMB I think is the pinnacle, but Western States brings such a different style. You don't have mandatory gear. You can run a lot lighter, more with a stride. It's flatter, so you are running at a faster, more aggressive pace, where UTMB takes a different mindset with patience and like someone like Kilian grows up in the mountains. He knows what it's like to hike for hours and hours, and there's a lot of patience with that. And I think like that's why you see someone like Vincent last year have a breakthrough, because he grew up hiking with his grandparents in the mountains. And there's just a patience and easiness with, like, when you're coming from a running background or track background like me, you feel like you're going slow, and you're just like, why are we going? It's taking so long to get there because you're counting miles. But in reality, like, it's pretty eye-opening that most endurance sports count in time, not distance. Like Americans tend to count in distance, which I think is a little bit of a disadvantage when now the distance takes so long to cover.
All right, so last thing. So you guys just raced a couple months ago. We were hoping you were going to race this weekend. It didn't happen. what are we going to see on a starting line together again? What possibilities are there? I know it's open-ended and vague, but what would it mean though to be in that race? Would it mean obviously a high profile race? I guess talk about that.
Yeah, no, like I think yes, it's not that many races, and like yeah, and now I'm also like racing less for different reasons, like age and family and that. But yeah, I think like races like Western, like UTMB, if you come back like to the short ones, like Sierra Nevada, the Gamma, those things, like I think yeah, it will come at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would a perfect scenario be? What would you envision?
Yeah, maybe a short race would be fun again. I think Sierra Nevada was after a Western States, and it would be nice to try that with a fresh build up for it. But currently, yeah, I'm just a bit more injury prone these days, I guess, than I ever was in younger days. So racing a bit less. But yeah, I think the hunger is still there to line up and do more racing. But yeah, you just kind of need to take advantage when your health is going good to start lining up. And I think we both like competition a lot, so we'll find each other at a start line sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting would it be? I mean, we can all hear, think about you guys coming over to the escarpment and then, lining up in Forest Hill, stride to stride going down to the river.
Yeah.
Does that entice you guys?
Yeah, if you want to agree to do Western States next year.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's we'll see how I finish this year first. Like it's been a long time, so
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, no, it's a race. Like yeah, it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been great talking to you. Thanks very much. It's good to have two legends here and two just very real, humble people talking about the sport and where it's going.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you, man.